الو، السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
جزاكم الله خير على البرنامج.
وجزاك إن شاء الله. تفضل يا أخي.
بقيت أسأل فضيلة الشيخ في حديث بمعنى أن الجنة طريقها صعب والنار طريقها مفروش بالورود. وعندي سؤال ثاني الله يخليك.
تفضل.
ما الدلائل والبراهين في دين الله؟
من أي ناحية يا أخ أبو صالح؟ الجانب العقائدي، في الفقه، في إيش الدلائل اللي تحتاجها يا أخ؟
في الوجود.
وجود الله عز وجل؟ طيب.
نعم.
جزاك الله خير يا أبو صالح، ويجيبك الشيخ بإذن الله تعالى. مع عبد الله. السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
أيضا الأخ أبو صالح يريد يقول دلائل على وجود الله عز وجل.
ينظر في نفسه، من كيف يغدو، كيف يروح، كيف يطعم، كيف يشرب، كيف يشرب هو نفسه، يعني السائل. كل ذرة في الكون تدل على وجود الله
سبحانه.
لو كان فيهما آلهة إلا الله لفسدتا، سبحان الله رب العرش عما يصفون. هذا خلق الله فأروني ماذا خلق الذين من دونه. يأتي الشيطان أحيانا على بني آدم كما ذكر السائل فيسأل هذا السؤال، يعني أين الدلالة على وجود الله؟ ولو تأمل لا يمكن أن يكون هو، حتى لو قلنا مثلا طبيعة ما أوجدته جدلا، من أوجد الطبيعة؟ ستبقى في هذه السؤال والدوائر لن تنتهي إلا عند شيء واحد، أن هناك
الكون خالق
أحد.
نعم.
كل شيء في قبضته. ستنتهي بك الدوائر حتى عقليا لا نقليا، ستنتقل بك إلى أن هناك أحد. نعم. هو من يملك الأمر، هو من يدبر الأمر، هو من يخلق، هو من يرزق، هو من يعطي، هو من يمنع، هو من يحيي، هو من يميت. هذا هو الله. ومع ذلك ما زلنا يعني ماذا أقول، يعني ما أخبرنا الله به عن نفسه شيئا يسيرا.
نعم.
الله يقول لا تدركه الأبصار وهو يدرك الأبصار وهو اللطيف الخبير. إذا أذن لي هذا السائل الكريم كلام موجه له عينا، يعني هذا ليس جوابا عاما، أنا يعني أطلب منه أن الليلة يصلي ركعتين وفي سجوده يطلب من الله جل وعلا أن يدله عليه، يطلب من الله أن يدله عليه، وأن يسأله أن تعظم معرفته به جل جلاله. لو ألح على ربه في السجود بهذا الدعاء أن يدله الله عليه أرجو أن يكفى. لن يجد عندي ولا عند غيري جوابا شافيا ما دام هذه طريقته. ليس له إلا الله، فيسجد ويسأل الله أن يدله عليه. إن صدق في نيته
بلغه الله.
وإن لم يصدق فلا يهلك على الله إلا هالك. لكن ينبغي أن يعلم والله لا توجد لذة أعظم من لذة المعرفة بالله. لا توجد لذة أعظم من لذة المعرفة بالله. حتى السجود هو أصل من آثار المعرفة بالله.
نعم.
السجود نفسه والعبادة نفسها من آثار المعرفة بالله. إذا عرف العبد والله جل وعلا حق المعرفة نجم عن هذا عظيم الطاعة، فعظيم الطاعة ناجم عن عظيم المعرفة. وكلما قلت العبادة والله دلت على قلة العلم بالله. وقد قال عليه الصلاة والسلام أما وإني لا أعلمكم بالله وأشدكم لله خشية. فقرن بين هذا وهذا. فأنتم تقولون نصوم الدهر ولا نفطر، وهذا يقول أقوم الليل فلا أرقد، وهذا يقول لا أتزوج النساء. كأنه يريد أن يقول أنا أعرف الله أكثر فلذلك عبدت الله أكثر. والنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال أنا أعلم بالله منكم وأعلم أن هذا الهدي هو هديه. والمقصود يا السائل المبارك أعظم العطايا أن تعرف الله.
الأخت عبد الله.
We still face the biggest problem that we had when we entered the 20th century. How did life originate on Earth?
The biggest impasse confronting evolution is the incredibly complex structure of the living cell. Every living thing on Earth is made up of cells about 1/100th of a millimeter in size. Some living things are made up of a single cell. Yet even these single-cell organisms are remarkably complex in their composition. They have complicated functions to survive, and even little motors to move. In Darwin's time, this complex structure of the cell was unknown. With the primitive microscopes of those days, cells appeared to be little more than featureless stains. However, powerful electron microscopes invented around the middle of the 20th century began revealing just how complex and organized a living cell really was. They laid bare a complexity and organization that could not be a product of chance. A living cell is comprised of thousands of tiny parts that work in harmony. To make a comparison, within the cell, there are power stations, high-tech factories, a complex data bank, huge storage systems, advanced refineries, and a seemingly conscious cell membrane that controls what enters and leaves the cell. In order for the cell to survive, all of these organelles have to exist at the same time. It is impossible that such an intricate and complex system could have emerged as a result of coincidences.
So there's a big question, if you're just kind of trying to assess how likely is it that we'd find a protein by chance with all the amino acids in that prebiotic soup interacting with each other for, say, billions of years. And I give it a lot of time. How likely is it that we'd ever get a protein to arise by chance? So I have a colleague who's been interested in the whole question of whether or not life could arise by chance for a long time. His name is Doug Axe. He's a molecular biologist. He did his PhD at Caltech. He worked for 14 years at Cambridge University, and he wanted to find out how common or how rare are the functional sequences of amino acids among the big space of all the possible amino acids there are. And he came up with a really amazing number, and it's 10 to the 74 power. So just to get the amino acid sequence properly, you've got an odds of about 1 in 10 to the 74. But there's other probabilistic hurdles that have to be overcome. If you want to build a protein, we know from chemistry that you have to attach the amino acids together with what's called a peptide bond. In nature, peptide bonds occur with about a 1 in 2 frequency. Half the bonds that form between amino acids are peptide bonds, half aren't. But if you get any bonds forming that aren't peptide bonds, you can't form a protein. So to form a protein, 150 amino acids long, you've got a 1 in 2 chance at each site of getting the correct type of linkage. So you got 1 in 2 times 1 in 2 times 1 in 2 times 1 in 2 to the what power? Close to 150. Since we got linkages, we have 149, but call it 150, okay? So in other words, we got another huge exponential problem to overcome. So, and it turns out that 1 in 2 to the 150 is the same number as 10 to the 45th, 1 in 10 to the 45. So now we got 2 incredibly improbable things that we've got to overcome to build a functional protein by chance alone. One more problem. When you're building proteins, amino acids come in 2 flavors. There's a left-handed flavor and a right-handed flavor. They're called optical isomers, not flavors, okay? And the left-handed version is the only kind that can be used in building proteins. You get even one right-handed amino acid in there and your protein won't fold properly. So you got another probabilistic hurdle to overcome. So you've got a 1 in 2 chance at each site again, out to the 150th power. 2 to the 150th power, again, is 10 to the 45. Oh my goodness. So the odds of building even a short functional protein by chance alone is 74 plus 40. You can remember how you do this in math? You can add the exponents if you're multiplying exponential numbers.
164.
Thank you very much. Okay? Wow. Now, can anyone get their mind around a number that big? There's only 10 to the 80th elementary particles in the entire universe. There's only 10 to the 16th seconds since the Big Bang. There's only 10 to the 139th total events since the beginning of the universe. Now you're starting to get the understanding of why people are very skeptical that the chance hypothesis is going to do the job. Now, you may have heard just the opposite. Has anyone ever gotten in a discussion with you about the origin of life and said, hey, it happened by chance? I mean, do you hear that? I mean, this happens to me. I'll be lecturing in hostile university environments, and I'll get done and somebody say, well, but, and they want to argue with me about the probabilities. And I just shut the discussion down because I say, no serious scientist thinks this is the way it happened. No serious scientist thinks this is the way it happened. No serious scientist thinks this is the way it happened. No serious scientist thinks this is the way it happened. No serious scientist
Modern biochemistry has also revealed the unimaginably complex design of the DNA molecule. The structure of the DNA molecule was discovered by two scientists, James Watson and Francis Crick, in 1955. Their discovery demonstrated that life was much more complex than anyone had previously envisioned. Himself a confirmed evolutionist, Francis Crick, who received a Nobel Prize for this discovery, came to confess that a structure like DNA could never have emerged by chance.
Professor Anthony Flew of England and Reading University is the world's foremost academic atheist over the last 50 years and the author of more than 30 books. His first debate with former atheist-turned-Christian C.S. Lewis in 1950 in Oxford, England, was the first time he advanced his argument for atheism. He later wrote a paper titled Theology and Falsification. The paper became the most widely reprinted philosophical publication of the last half-century and a key foundation for atheists and agnostics who advanced materialist evolutionism. But now it is the advancement of science itself that has changed the mind of Flew and some scientists. At a recent summit at New York University, Flew changed his position and now believes in God as the creator of the universe. Flew turns to various discoveries of science to prove his point. But it is the manifestation of life written in DNA and the transcription of DNA to RNA and RNA into protein and the subsequent process of protein folding that makes the best case for Flew.
What I think that the DNA material has done has shown by its almost unbelievable complexity of the arrangements which lead to produce this being, that intelligence must have been involved in getting these extraordinarily diverse elements to work together.
When you look at RNA, you as a chemist, you're in sort of astonishment, really, at just what a wonderful molecule it is. It's complex, it's a really beautiful structure, and you inevitably wonder, how on earth did that structure arise? How on earth did chemistry produce it?
RNA's structure looks simple, but looks can deceive. Each building block is actually made of two parts, a sugar molecule and a nuclear base.
Chemists found they could make the nuclear bases, and so when they then realized they could actually make the sugars, they just thought, we must be able to join them together. And so they tried for many years, but the problem was, chemically, you just can't join them together.
Of course, such an amazing structure could never have been formed by chance. The theory of evolution, which sees life as the result of mere coincidences and haphazard happenings, is helpless to explain anything in the face of the incredible complexity of
There is nothing from human experience that can let us believe that something came from nothing. Look at everything around you. Where did it all come from?
Imagine if we're traveling through the natural surroundings of the beautiful desert and we stumble across this mobile phone just lying there on the sand, and you ask yourself where it came from. Someone tells you, take a look at the basic components of this mobile phone. You've got the outer plastic and you've got the silicon chips inside. Someone tells you plastic is produced from oil and the silicon is produced from sand. And it's then explained to you that over the course of millions of years, the oil beneath the desert is caused to rise and merge with the sand, and through the heat of the sun and the heavy desert winds and strikes of lightning, these extraordinary events caused the creation of the mobile phone to occur. Just like that. Ridiculous, right? And it's ridiculous because everything about this mobile phone points to a design. It's too perfectly shaped and formed, and its features are too sophisticated for it to have appeared so randomly.
Only Earth sustains life as we know it today. Everything that we know about Earth suggests that it was created to support life.
The size of the Earth is immense, yet there it is floating in the universe orbiting the Sun. At the same time, it's tilting and spinning on its own axis. Just think, if the Earth was to go around the Sun any faster, we could break out of orbit and all life would end as we spun off into the vast universe. Likewise, if we were to orbit slower, we would be drawn closer to the Sun and burn up. If the angle at which the Earth is tilted was a few degrees off, then we would not have our seasons and we would suffer all sorts of disasters affecting the weather, crops, animals, and the food we rely on for survival. And what about the Moon? Have you noticed how fully it hides the Sun during a solar eclipse, even though it's nowhere near the size of the Sun and it's millions of miles away? Everything is in its place, working in perfect precision. Can you imagine what levels of calculations are required to achieve this level of precision?
Just like we're not prepared to accept a mobile phone appearing in the desert through random events, there's no way the whole universe, the galaxies, the stars, its complex systems ordered with such precision occurred through events of randomness or from nothing. And the same can be said about the existence of human beings. And this brings me to something that God says in his final revelation, where he says, "Were they created by nothing? Or were they themselves the creators? Or were they the creators of the heavens and the earth? Nay, but they are sure of nothing."
The existence of God is the most plausible explanation and a very rational conclusion from all other ideas.
If you force yourself to sit back and think about how we got here and all the things that fit together just perfectly on our planet, it's just very incredible. Just our atmosphere alone, the reason we can breathe is because the nitrogen and the carbon dioxide and the oxygen just fit together perfectly. All the things from all the different landscapes, from the mountains to the jungles, to the deserts, to the oceans, all the different kinds of animals and different kinds of fish. You just have to come to one conclusion, and the conclusion for me and obviously many other people is that there's one supreme being or supreme intelligence that created everything. And once you come to this conclusion, you have to believe that he controls everything. And for me, it's just very, very soothing and comforting knowing this.
It's perfectly rational and reasonable to link what we see in the design and the reality of order with intelligence, power, and will. It proves the existence of an intelligent and creative being, and that can only be what we understand to be God. And who is God? Well, we know about God through what God himself has revealed in his final revelation, the Quran. In it, God states, "Say, he is Allah, the One. Allah is the self-sufficient master upon whom all depend. He begets not, nor was he begotten, and there is none co-equal or comparable unto him."